20 minutes to 8 with Brian on Pacific Breakfast. A very warm welcome to Fijian Language Week 2017. Madawa ni vosa vakaviti. Our theme for this year, Nongo vosa me umbula taka. Now, for many Pacific Island families, the desire to own their own home may seem unachievable. Over the next 6 weeks, every Monday, I'm going to be joined by Andrew Lavu as well as Alan Liuwai from Home Ownership Pathway to take us through the Home Ownership Pathway Bootcamp to help our listeners and viewers on Facebook to put steps in place to help make that dream a reality. This morning, week 1, we begin with personal finances, organising them to work for you to achieve home ownership. And on that note, it is a very warm welcome to the show this morning, gentlemen. How are we doing? Well?
Thank you.
Good. Bulla indeed, Alan. Very good. Bulla indeed. So we're looking at personal finances, organising them to work for you to achieve home ownership. Shall we start firstly with a bit of an overview, introduction of the company and a little bit about yourselves, gentlemen, if that's okay?
Yep. Home Ownership Pathway is a social enterprise. We're basically set up to assist low to middle income earners into home ownership. I mean, that's our primary purpose and goal. And what we do is we take families all the way through the pathway, right from when they decide they want to get into home ownership, right through to when they get the keys in their hands. So, yeah, as I said, we're a social enterprise, and that's what we're set up to do.
Can I ask a little bit about your specific roles within the company, Andrew and then Alan?
Yep. So I'm more the overview, the hands-on guy, sets up the connections and that, and designs the systems and processes for the company. So more of a director type role. And
my role is to work with the clients and to help prepare them and to assess their where they are financially, and to help prepare them to get a loan application forward.
Nice. So we've got the Bill Gates and Wozniak of Home Ownership Pathway. That's good. Okay then, gentlemen. So once again, our week number 1, and of course encouraging all our listeners and viewers, if you have any queries, especially on Facebook, just send them through and I'll try to get to them during our sessions. So how do we overcome this problem, firstly, gentlemen, with regards to Pacifica around whaalawelawe or kaweina?
Yeah, so first thing, what we need to do is take stock of what our current spending habits are, or identify where our money is currently going. And then we set up a system. So we set up systems for our clients, like 4-bucket system or 3+1 system. So we're making sure that our finances are managed in a way that an emergency fund is created for kawenga or for whaalawelawe when they arise. The main emphasis I want to talk about is just trying to get families to stay away from getting loans. Like a loan should be the absolute last thing that you go and get. And also, if you do, just make sure it's a real low amount. You know, if you're absolutely forced to get a loan, make sure it's a really low amount. But the first thing is, you know, if we have the money system in place, that we've got an emergency fund, we should actually give from that and say, look, this is all I can contribute. And we understand as Pacifica ourselves, we're going to be in those situations, so we've got to contribute something, but we're just going to contribute what we can and stick to our overall home ownership goal.
In terms of that, you mentioned a 4-bucket system or something. Can you talk us more through that, please?
Yeah, so it's basically the first bucket is obviously paying yourself. So making sure that when your money comes in, we're setting up like a 4-bucket system. So the first one is we pay ourselves, so that's normally about 10%, and we set that as we're paying ourselves first, a 10% amount. Second one is food and bills, food and living costs. So that's normally like your food and petrol. And that's going to be like, once that amount's set per week, that's all we're going to spend in that week. If we go over that, then we come back. We don't delve into any other bucket. The third bucket that we're going to create is this thing where we look at all your fixed expenses for the whole year. And this is going to be your fixed bills account. And then the fourth one would be obviously your emergency account. So with Alan here, we've got things like tithing that we like to make it as a bill, don't we? We like to set it up as like an electricity bill or telephone bill. So that's how we get across with our Pacifica families, how we work with them around tithing and whaalawelawe and kawenga.
Alan, when we're talking about, finances and organising them, and yourself looking after the mortgage side and that, how important is that, when, a bank or another financial organisation is looking at that in terms of actually being approved a mortgage to move into a house?
It's very important because a bank really looks at a person's character first. And a character is their intentions to pay a bill. And so if they have good systems in place, such as this 4-bucket system, it allows the banks to know that they look disciplined, they're managing the accounts well, and it goes a long way for them to look at approving a loan.
Are we able to touch more in terms of the, just staying with the mortgages and that for a moment, some of the other factors that are taken into consideration, which I'm sure will be covered, regularly over the next 6 weeks. But if you could start us off, somebody's applying for a mortgage or financing through a bank or another organisation, what sort of things they can take into consideration apart from finances?
They look at their savings history. What type of savings are they building? They also look at their servicing. What sort of debts do they have? How much debt? And they look at income. Is their income able to service not only their normal today living costs, but can they service a big mortgage payment that will soon be entering their home?
We're talking about, the 4-bucket system. Any other systems that either of you can, recommend, or that we can, just to lay that strong foundation in terms of, getting our finances right as the first sort of step on the path to home ownership?
Well, the first step that we need to do is identify where our current money is going. So the first thing we'd recommend is we sit down with families and go, well, we either print off a bank statement and we identify where all our spending's going. So it's only when you go through like a spending diary that you realize, hey, I'm spending that $5, $10 a day on a coffee, which adds up to an enormous amount over a year, 2 years, or, I'm spending so much money on takeaways. And some of these figures, you'll be shocked yourself, the amount that you're actually spending on takeaways. So the first thing we need to do is sit down and identify where our current money is going. And the second thing we do is set up the system. And the third thing is, once we've set up that system, an important part, and it applies to our Pacifica families, is this whole accumulation of debt. A lot of families have accumulated quite a high amount of debt. So we're talking, on average about 30,000 for our Pacifica families that we're engaging with. And with that debt, we've obviously got a couple of tools and systems that we recommend. So Alan might want to touch on the avalanche or snowball system. And then we've obviously got debt consolidation. So these are some of the tools that we put in place for the families, A, to get rid of that debt, B, we know exactly what we're spending our money on, and C, we're working a system and a process, and we're going to sacrifice, stick to that system and process, and that will get us to home ownership eventually.
Avalanche, and I'm thinking, discipline also being that big word, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Alan, in terms of the avalanche, it doesn't sound too good, but I suppose, what is it? You got to go through that painful sort of brutal honesty before we, move any further.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Andrew said, you got to take stock of where you are. And so my role is to have a look at the situation. And there is a lot of debt. Our families do get into that. And so we have to smash that. Yeah. And so because it's too hard to have a mortgage and have all these debts, because the bank won't allow you to do that, because it won't fit the servicing criteria for the bank. And so what our role is then is to look at either one, consolidating that debt, so refinancing it all together and cutting down the repayments, and then using the surplus of those repayments to drive down that debt. Or we do the debt consolidations snowball effect, where we put all the accounts into one. So for example, let's say it's $800 a fortnight that they're paying for their debts. Okay, and so you once that
Yeah, right,
yeah, you explain it, Andrew. So I'm more a paperman, graphic man. So
yeah. So once we got all our debts into one repayment, so we know what the repayments are. If it's $800 a fortnight, let's say we've got 6 or 7 loan contracts, so that could be credit cards, finance. So we've got 6 or 7 loan contracts, and what we're trying to do is get to a point where we're putting that $800 into that one account with all those debts in one account. And we want to get to a point where we've got $800 going in, paying off one contract eventually. So we're going to snowball it all the way down. So whatever, we're paying off the first one, then the second one, and we're keeping that money still going in. So eventually we get to a point where it's going to snowball or avalanche really quickly if you've got $800 going towards one loan contract. So that's where what the snowball or avalanche tool or system is. And it's just a way that we can pay off your debts a lot faster. And it's a system that works if you can't get credit. So what we normally like to do, as Alan said, debt consolidate, so that if your repayments are $800 a fortnight, obviously if we consolidate it, we can bring it down on a lower interest rate, and it might come down to $200 a fortnight or $400 a fortnight, which frees up that cash flow in your budget. But what we recommend is don't use that money for an extra McDonald's or something else, but put that money towards snowballing and paying that debt off faster.
And sort of looking at our high interest ones first.
Definitely,
yes?
definitely. So
okay,
we take the high interest loans, and some of the families that we come across when we actually sit down and crunch the numbers of the loans. Let's say we've got 5 different loans. Most people, once you go through the combined interest rate, didn't realize overall that we've had families paying 87% interest, 56% interest. And this is not our fault, but just due to a lack of like financial literacy or education on before they sign their loan contract. Are you aware of like the interest rate that you're going to be paying? But overall, your debt repayments, did you realize, on a $5,000 loan that you're paying back somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 over time? So.
Gentlemen, I want to talk on this word discipline because, well, for me personally, it has been sorely lacking, especially when it comes to finances over the years, and especially this sort of emotional spending. Just in my experience of other, Pacifica families and that, can you talk to us about the importance right from the get-go in week 1, managing our finances, about discipline?
Yep. So that goes down to that food and your living account. So a great example is, if we're going to set the limit for your food and petrol, for example, $300 a week, discipline means that once you spend that $300, you're not going to delve into the other buckets. So you're not going to go into your savings or your emergency account. You're going to get to you're going to spend that $300 on shopping, and you're going to wait to the next paycheck till the money comes in until you access that money. So that's discipline there. And what we're seeing is examples of families who have given up smoking. Obviously cut back on takeaways and started to shop at, green produce, eating healthy. And this is all part of that discipline, but also determination and action to achieve this thing called home ownership. So once you've really sat down and said to yourself, look, I really want to get into home ownership, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get into home ownership. I'm going to give up smoking, give up all the takeaways, and I'm going to get my goal. And so the first thing we're going to do is get rid of that debt. And the second thing we're going to do is anything it takes to get that goal. So that's why we call the Home Ownership Bootcamp. And so we're trying to transform people and take them through that pathway to getting into home ownership.
And on that note, if you've just tuned in, family, a very warm welcome. We are in week 1 of the Home Ownership Pathway Bootcamp series with Andrew Lovell, as well as Alan Leuluai. And our first week talking about personal finances, organising them to work for you to achieve home ownership. Some final words for today on our first topic, gentlemen. Firstly, Alan, for yourself. What are the main takeaways from today that we want to leave our listeners and our viewers with in terms of setting that goal and working towards that home ownership pathway goal?
Okay. I think you mentioned the word discipline, and I think that really needs to be emphasised. Being determined to be able to have the goal, to reach the goal, and to make the sacrifices that is needed. And all that is all good intentions unless you put action towards it. So applying discipline to your finances.
And Andrew, final words for you today, sir?
Yeah, I think, once we sit down with you and we identify where your current money is going and we implement the systems and processes, you've really just got to work those systems and processes and just trust the process. What we're finding is we're working with families over 12 to 18 months. And we can basically, if we put in the plan, work the plan, over that time, you're going to get into a position where you can achieve pre-approval, which is obviously the ultimate goal of home ownership. So the main thing is that through our service, you're going to stay away and avoid debt. you know, through our program, you're going to not go and get another credit card loan or another loan. So emphasis around personal finances has to be around staying away and avoiding debt altogether, staying on task, staying disciplined and focused on achieving your goal of home ownership. We've got all the tools and we've got the resources that you can use. It's just really up to you to apply this really to your personal budget and come and see us.
Awesome. And on that note, we're going to put the website up on our live video, which we're doing now. And we encourage you. So week 2, so this is week 1 of 6 weeks. And it just passed me what we're going to be looking at next week, but just to leave a little bit of suspense is always good. So a very big thank you, Andrew Lovell, Alan Luwari from Home Ownership Pathway. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen, and look forward to catching up with you next week, same time.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is 4 minutes to 8. Our news, weather, and traffic updates at 8 o'clock coming up next. Oh, gentlemen, got to wait till I finish before we congratulate each other. Radio 531 behind, bringing Pacific people together.
Pacific Magazine.
In issue 70 of Pacific Magazine, meet Joseph Parker's